MANUS AI is breaking the internet. So what I'm going to show you today is some of the new ways that MANUS has been used lately. It's some really cool stuff. I'll also be running on some other stuff too, including some examples of what people have created and how they've created it and how you can use MANUS. Now, if you don't have an invite code yet, check out the AI Profit Boardroom. We've actually got a SOP on exactly how to set up Open MANUS, which is kind of like a localized version. Now, if you're not familiar what MANUS is, then I nearly said something else there. Then you can essentially connect Claude with a bunch of other APIs. I believe from what some people have said as well, it's kind of jailbroken as well in some ways. And so this AI agent is really, really autonomous in the way that it creates stuff, right? So let me show you an example. So this is an example where someone said, create an interactive simulation visualization of the moon's current state and where it is relative to the Earth, right? It should be a 3D visualization with the option to turn the camera and the like, right? The Earth and the moon should have realistic textures, blah, blah, blah. And you can see this was created in one prompt. It's not like you're, for example, going back and forth between ChatGPT or anything like that. This was literally created in one single prompt. Now, when you see the output, it's absolutely wild. So let me show you the output here. This is the output of the moon. You can flip between it. It's like 3D. It works perfectly. And you can see it's got the current moon phase there as well. So you see the full moon and which part of the cycle, the lunar cycle, it's up to, with the moon just gravitating around the Earth and the Earth spinning. And look at the chat right here. So one prompt, then we keep scrolling down, and there's no real back and forth. It just goes off and creates it basically perfectly. How wild is that? And then it's like, right, the visualization is permanently deployed here. Here's the features. Here's an overview of what we've done, etc. And it's deployed it like perfectly, basically. So if you haven't tested this out yet, you're definitely missing out. But if you need like an invite, if you're waiting for an invite or you're worrying, okay, like how do I get access to this? It's only in invitation mode only, right? So for example, if you actually sign up, I heard something crazy like 2 million people on the waiting list. And if you want like a different version of this, you can actually use Open MANUS. I have a full tutorial video on exactly how to set up, plus an SOP inside the AI Profit Boardroom, link in the comments description. But essentially, you can see how powerful this is. I mean, this is not just good for creating, random images of the moon floating around, which is super impressive, but also you can build so much more cool stuff with this. So if we go to get started, I'll show you what I've created in my login here. So I've created all of this different stuff. So for example, this is one of the other scary things is like, this is better and more powerful than any other virtual assistant I've ever hired. If we scroll through here, you can see that this does way better research than ChatGPT, way better and more in-depth research than any, virtual assistant or executive assistant I've hired. Like, bear in mind as well, I was quoted, I think, about $100,000 to get a really good virtual assistant, or really good, not a virtual assistant, but an executive assistant. Now I could just replace that with MANUS AI and it would do the job. It doesn't take weekends off. It can do multiple things at once. It's not going to complain about multitasking at the same time. And nothing, my friends, nothing drops off the to-do list because it can just get it all done right here, right? And then also, if we want to go back, like, oh, where's the notes, etc., then we can scroll down to the previous example, right? So if we go in here, this is a website actually created in like one click using these autonomous AI agents. It was deployed, it was coded, it was created, it was all visualized using MANUS AI. Absolutely wild stuff. And that is not the end of it, my friends. So I'm going to show you another example here. This is actually a Pokemon store that someone created, right? So let me pull this up for you. Someone said, can you please build me a fully functioning website to sell Pokemon cards on, right? I would like to be like this site, right? And they've asked for a clone of a site, I believe, something like that. It's gone off, it's coded it, it's created it. You can see it kind of working. This isn't real time. This is way faster than real time. Honestly, it's going to take you about, I would say, anywhere between 10 minutes and 30 minutes to create something like this. But once it's done, it's some of the best stuff we've ever seen, right? So if we pull this up, it's running through the to-do list, it's creating everything, it's coding it all. And then the output is absolutely insane. So for example, if we pull this up, let me show you the output here. So this is the website that was created at the end. We're just going to skip to results. All right, and if we scroll down and skip to the results right here, where is it now? Let's find this deployed website. Here we go. That's the result. And you see, this is the website that's created. If we click on this, for example, it's created a full e-commerce store with tons of different products, right? So these are all different products that it's created. It's got the pricing, it's got the rarity rating on the Pokemon card, nice little set of reviews there, pricing. You can add stuff to the cart. So if I click on add cart, you can see I've added one actually earlier today. We've got a little shiny Charizard sitting in the cart right there. So if you're in the e-commerce space, I mean, this is going to disrupt everything for you. Honestly, like, you know, I don't know how many people watching this have an e-commerce store, but previously we'd spend like a whole weekend, you know, setting up Shopify, messing around with that, creating different things. And now you've got a whole e-commerce store set up in one single click, right? The blog post doesn't seem to work, but you have got like an opt-in. You know, it's created all the footer and everything as well. And then, yeah, full navigation bar as well. So it's absolutely wild. And then, you know, if you go to checkout, we've got the pricing. And it doesn't stop there. We've got more to show you, but I just wanted to crack straight into that. So next up, what I'm going to show you is a game that was created called Missile Command. I'm just going to mute this. It does actually have sound on the game. I don't want to play the sound during a live stream because it's not going to sound very good. But for example, if we have a look at the prompt for this, let me pull it up here. In fact, I haven't got the prompts. I don't think I've got the original chat for this, but this is basically a game that was created. You can see it's hosted on MANUS Space. That's how you know this was created with MANUS Space, right? Now, I know a lot of people saying, for example, MANUS is just like a wrapper of Claude, you know, or ChatGPT, and it's just linked to 29 different tools, so it's not that special. But bear in mind, if you ask ChatGPT or you ask Claude to create something like this, all it's going to do is give you a plan. And maybe if you're lucky, Claude will deploy it. But ChatGPT is not going to deploy this for you. It's not going to code it off for you. And you're going to be going back and forth with lots of errors for ages and ages. Whereas, for example, if we're looking at that website we built previously, the Pokemon cards one, how many times have we gone back and forth inside the chat here? Like maybe once, twice? That's it. Pretty wild. Same, for example, with this interactive 3D moon Earth simulation you've got here, right? That actually works perfectly. If you have a look at this, the only time someone's gone back and forth in the chat there is like once. That's it, literally once. So you can see how much more autonomous this is. You literally just, you give it the prompt, it goes off, it creates it, and before you know it, you've got this bad boy set up right here. So this is called Missile Command. It says defend your cities from incoming missiles, use a mouse to aim and click and fire. Press P to pause, all right? We've got the instructions right there. It's kind of like an old school game. I mean, imagine, you know, if you were coding a Mega Drive game in the back, right? How long would this take to create? I mean, like back in the day, if you were back in the 80s and you got this massive games company like Sony, who were the only ones who were able to invest resources into creating games like this. And then you got like maybe 10, 20 developers all building it out, testing out for months, and then finally launch it, right? That was what it was like back in the day. Now, everything has changed because it's just you and your brain and your ideas. And you're like, okay, let's take that idea from my brain and plug it into MANUS. Now, one of the other things that I would say here is like, you know, if you look at the definition of power, the definition of power is the speed between your idea and action, right? So, for example, you know, on an extreme side of things, like if you were looking at a god would be able to just, you know, literally create something as soon as it thinks about it, right? Whatever religion you are. But with MANUS, you've basically got one idea and then you create something as soon as you have that idea, right? And that's the difference. And you can see this game works basically perfectly, right? We're not playing games here. Like, I mean, we are playing games, but you get the point. Like, we can play with this 3D animation. It works perfectly. I'm actually talking to you whilst playing it. I can press P to pause it if I just want to pause it and then switch over to the camera and talk to you. But that's pretty impressive. Like, I know a lot of people hate on, you know, the self-playing Snake game and that sort of thing, but this is genuinely creating something of value that people would genuinely play. I mean, when I was back in school, I'd play worse games than this, you know, on whatever it was, like all these Flash games that used to come out back in the day. So the power of this stuff is absolutely unbelievable. And this is just working perfectly. Now, if you wanted to create something that's more 3D, for example, like a 3JS game. I'm going to pause this. You don't want to lose your progress on the game, mate. Let's press P to pause that. And then if we go back to the chats over here, actually got a bunch of things that I've created in the past, right? And one of them, if we go into the AI Profit Boardroom, SOPs, and then you can see my creations I've actually made here. So we've actually created this fantasy game example. And this one is kind of like a 3JS game, right? So we can basically move around, right? It looks like a post box. It doesn't look like much of a character. I didn't go back and forth much in the chat, but you get the point. Like I could just go around the forest. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can see what's popping. And zoom right in with that geezer right there. It's a little bit too close for my liking. And then we can go through the forest, or we can go through the castle, and it is deployed on a MANUS subdomain as well. So that's the other thing here is like this is being hosted on a MANUS subdomain, which is pretty cool because like how much would you pay to get a website hosted? Probably, I would say minimum you're going to be paying is like $7. Probably going to be more like $10, something like that. So you get the point. Like it's absolutely awesome. One thing I will say that has been a little bit annoying with MANUS today, because I wanted to show you some more cool stuff, was that I only seem to be able to create one thing at once, right? So, for example, I actually went into the chat here, asked it to create something, and it said you have reached the maximum daily usage limit. And I only created like one thing today, right? That was it. So just something to bear in mind there is like, it seems like we can only create one thing at once. And also sometimes when you deploy applications, so for example, this is an application right here, and the front end and the back end is deployed, but it's only deployed temporarily. Like that's not hosted on a permanent subdomain. And the way that you can tell that is if it's manus.computer or manus.space. If it's manus.computer, that is just an app that's hosted temporarily. If it's manus.space, like for example this, then it's hosted permanently on that subdomain, right? Which means that you can come back to it, you can bookmark it, you can play around with it, etc. Now, the other thing about this is that, we've built money-making websites using this process. So, for example, if I type in AI Profit Boardroom inside here, I actually created this website using MANUS and literally just gave it some information about me. It did most of the research because it's connected to the web, like you can see, and it's pretty nicely designed, looks good. It links directly to our funnels, like you can see, and it is a money-making website designed to convert, nicely built, hosted it on Netlify. Actually did that during a live stream, I think. And then you can see within less than 24 hours, this was ranking number 2 for our target keyword. It was only outranked by the main membership community, like you can see right here, which makes sense because that's where everyone is. By the way, if you haven't joined, you are missing out. There is so much stuff in here, but you get the point. There's all this stuff you can build, like 3D Earth moon visualizations. You got a medieval castle game built right there. We have a Pokemon website ready to go, all set up there. We have a working e-commerce site, and we also have a missile game that actually works and looks pretty cool. I mean, that's fairly complex, let's be honest. Now, if you want to see more creations like this, Twitter is a really good place to go. But also, if we go over to Manus, if you type in site:/manus.space inside Google, and we search that, we can actually see all the previous creations, right? I don't think every single one of them is indexed, but you get the point. Like there's all these different cool things that have been created and hosted, right? So for example, this is like an IBIT ETF overview, nice little dashboard right there. This was created with MANUS Space again, autonomously. I mean, think about this, right? How much would you have paid for a team of SaaS developers like 2 years ago, right? Whereas, for example, now you can just create that and you don't need any people. And that's the scary thing here. It's like, jobs are being replaced. If you don't realize that already, jobs are seriously being replaced, and they're being replaced at like lightning speed. I mean, this is the worst AI is ever going to be, and it's seriously impressive already. So it's going to absolutely blow people away. I think when people truly realize what's out there and what you can do and how it can be built, etc. This is like a vibe coding SaaS software, it looks like. So yeah, someone's just built out a vibe coding SaaS software website. So obviously you got that SaaS dashboard right there. This seems to be like a portfolio for different games built with AI. So you can see here it says recently created with AI. Then we click on the information about the game, and then we can. This is by Alex Finn, actually. Shout out to Alex Finn. He's killing it on Twitter, I think. Yeah, shout out to him. And you can see it just kind of is a portfolio of everything that's created. Let's have a look. So someone also cloned the Apple Store, which is pretty wild if you ask me. I don't know who did this, but it's fully, I mean, like, that's pretty recent as well, because it's got the trailer for Severance out there. Shout out to my Severance watchers. I was watching that last night. And then we have a Transformer architecture website, all sorts of crazy stuff in there. Let's have a look what else we got here. So we've got a React app built. That doesn't look very good, to be fair. I only want to show you the good stuff. I don't want to show you the bad stuff. Interactive middle school physics. Let's have a look here. So it's got like lesson plans, classroom activities. We can explore simulations. And it's created like all these different physics. We can pause the animation as well, create a whole web page out of it, and we're ready to go on that. I mean, the stuff that you can do is just unbelievable with Manus. And you know, if you want to get access to this, I don't think it's available yet for everyone, but you can go to my video, and I'll show you again how to create Open Manus in the future. But if you go to my video on the live stream here, actually, this is the wrong channel. Let me show you the real channel. Here we go. If you go to this channel and then go to the live stream here, there's actually a video on Open Manus, right? So if you want to see me set it up in real time, you can watch this video right here. It breaks it down exactly like how to set up Open Manus. And that's kind of like an alternative to Manus. Now, I'll be testing that out today and showing you how to set it up and everything else. And we'll be comparing them side by side. Honestly, do I think it's as good? Probably not. But if there's 2 million people on the waiting list, it might be a while before you get access to this stuff. So just bear that in mind. So thanks so much for watching. So far, we've covered, you know, what Manus is, some of its best creations, how powerful it is, how much better it is than ChatGPT, you know, how scary it is, how it's replacing jobs, and all the cool stuff you can create with it that you can just check out by searching Google /manus.space. So if you want to get access to my SOP for setting up Open Manus, it's inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Just go to the SOP section, and then from there, you're going to go down to Open Manus on the left-hand side, full SOP and a video tutorial on exactly how to set that up. Additionally, if you want to jump on weekly calls with me about AI, you can jump on that right there. If you want to save hundreds of hours, make money with AI, then this is the best community. It's probably the best community I've ever created, I'll be honest with you. So it's really worth checking out. One of the best things I've ever done. And yeah, you can see all these different video tutorials right here as well. And if you want to get a free SEO strategy session, feel free to get that link in the comments and the description. On this free SEO strategy session, we'll show you how we take websites from 0 to 145,000 visits a month, generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales on autopilot. On this free link building acceleration session, you get free SEO domination plan, discover the secrets SEO link building, answer any questions you have. And this is all custom tailored to you, your business, your website, your situation, right? This is not generic stuff. Like when you jump on this call, it's all applied to you, your business, and everything else. So feel free to get that link in the comments and the description. Next up, we'll be coming on to some other stuff as well. So we'll be coming on to how to automate anything with Manus. We'll answer some of the questions as well inside the chat here. And yeah, super powerful stuff. What I want to show you next, though, is some open source stuff. I'm just going to take a little break and then we'll come on to that in a minute. So make sure you keep watching. Just going to take a little 1-minute break, get this stuff set up and ready to go, and we'll go from there. All right, so next up, we're going to be talking about Manus versus Open Manus. What's the difference? Which one is better? How much better is Manus versus Open Manus? By the way, if you're not familiar with this, basically, Manus can, you know, create amazing animations like this. It can deploy them to subdomains. It can create games like you can see. You've also got, for example, e-commerce stores that have been automated and built really quickly with Manus. And this is kind of like an autonomous AI agent that can build websites, automate tasks for you. It can build anything you want. You got all these crazy SaaS dashboards that you can create, and you do this all just by creating like one prompt inside the chat, right? So, for example, if we go to my chats inside MANUS here, you see all this stuff that we've created previously. So, for example, this is a local SEO directory that I created. Looks pretty nice. Content filled out on every single page. We're ready to go on that. What we've also got, for example, is we have these reports that you can build. It can even do reports on like trends in the market, etc. So this actually went off onto the internet, and as an AI agent, it just started analyzing like Google Trends in the stock market, found some correlations there and that sort of thing as well. Additionally, it even planned out like a comprehensive 30-day trip, and we built like a medieval game, like you can see right here using this process. Some people built some really crazy stuff. For example, like missile games. I even built this website using MANUS as well. So let's compare it side by side versus Open MANUS. If you're not sure how to set up Open MANUS, it's inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Just go to the SP section and you get access right here, or you can just go to the GitHub available at Open MANUS and just follow the instructions here. It is a little bit technical, but you get the point. And I've got this already set up, pre-set up inside the chat right here. So we have MANUS ready to go. Just need to copy the instructions. So let me grab the python.main py over here. We'll plug that in. We'll get that running. All right. And then once you've set up Open MANUS, which is kind of like a localized open source version of MANUS from what I understand, but it doesn't have such a nice UI, then we can start giving it prompts. Okay. Now, the main thing that I would say with MANUS is like right now, it seems to be overwhelmed. And what I mean by that is like, there's supposed to be something crazy like 2 million people on the waiting list. I saw that on Twitter this morning. I don't know if it's true or not. It's not confirmed officially, but that is pretty wild if it's true. And that means as well that this is in beta. And because that's in beta, for example, if I try and start a new chat inside MANUS, it's only going to let me do like one task a day, right? So if we ask it, well, it looks like it's, yeah, there we go. So it says you have reached the maximum daily usage limit during the beta testing period, right? So it's very, very limited, which is one of the biggest issues with MANUS, right? I absolutely love the tool, love that it's autonomous, love that it can do whatever it wants. But if you can only use it once a day, it's pretty limited. Whereas, for example, Open MANUS, because it's running on your APIs, for example, this has ChatGPT 4.0's API plugged in, then at least it can actually do stuff, even if it can't do it at the same level. So, for example, if we say, all right, research a 3-day trip to New York. We'll zoom in there and then we'll hit enter. Hopefully this works. So you can see it's actually just running the task. So by default, actually, yeah, it wins technically because it actually does the job that we need it to. The only thing that I tend to find is like it's pretty poor when it comes to formatting it, right? And so you can see here, it can like Google stuff, it can figure stuff out, etc. And if we go to Visual Studio Code, where we have this set up, you can see previous stuff that I built, right? So for example, we've got like a day one Tokyo itinerary that I built, plugged in right there. And this is the output from Open MANUS, right? So the good thing about this as well is it's stored locally, so you can always come back to it whenever you want. It's pretty easy to set up once you've already installed like the, everything else that's required. Once it's done as well, it will give you the outputs here. So for example, we've got the Tokyo itinerary plan that I created previously. We also, for example, have a SEO cost calculator that we've built. Let me see if I can test this for you now. And then we also have, what else? We've got an SEO cost calculator right here. And so it's pretty easy and simple to set up, and then we can come back to the outputs here. However, if we have a look at the outputs, it's really, really basic. So let me show you an example. So if we go over to MANUS, one of the main demos that it has, if we scroll down here, is a trip to Japan in April. If you look at the outputs from Open MANUS versus MANUS, MANUS just goes into way more detail, right? So you can see here, I was searching a lot more websites. It's got a really nice UI. And it's scanning through the whole internet. I will show you how to set up Open MANUS as well at the end of this video if you're struggling to set up. But you can see here that the outputs are just much more in depth, right? It goes into way more detail. It's way more comprehensive. Whereas, for example, inside MANUS, it's really basic. Like it will do a few searches, it will create the itinerary, but we don't really get much of an output. And then if we go to the final output from Manus as well, over here, we scroll down, it's nicely formatted, but also it's much more in depth. So if we compare, for example, this plan, which is, let's have a look here. This is 552 words. Whereas if we go over to the itinerary from OpenManus, it's really basic. I mean, honestly, you're probably going to get a better output directly from ChatGPT than using this process right here. So it's very, very limited. That's the only thing. Like you kind of get a feel for what Manus can do, but you don't get the same power or the same functionality. And the other thing as well is like on Manus itself directly, you can actually host subdomains, right? So you can create something and then host it as a subdomain. Here's an example of an SEO cost calculator we built using OpenManus as well. Super basic stuff. So, I mean, it can browse the internet. It is kind of like an AI autonomous agent. But the biggest issue here is that it's just not that great at going off and doing stuff, you know, to the detail that we require. Back in the game with the camera there. Camera ran out of battery right there. So you get the feel for it and how it works, etc. Let me just set up a new project right here on Descript. So overall, which one is better? Well, I'm going to say Manus by a long, long way. It's just OpenManus is so basic and so limited. You know, Manus gives us tons of detail, whereas OpenManus is very, very limited. Now, this could change if you plug in a different API key directly into Manus, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. But honestly, it's not that impressive, right? I think I've actually got better results with other AI agents, like, for example, this one. I think it's Convergence. Convergence is pretty decent as well. So if we go on to Google and we type in Convergence AI, this is probably a better alternative to OpenManus. The only thing is it's not installed locally, but it is kind of like a Manus assistant that will just go off and do stuff, right? So if we log in here, I'll do that in the background. And we'll get that set up. This is what convergence looks like. It's kind of like what ChatGPT operator promised to do. And if we, for example, click on stock trader, run that task right here, we'll see what it comes back with. And then it will say, okay, you know, could you specify which stock price you want? So I'm just going to put Tesla, for example, there. And we'll see what it comes back with. And I would say, like, if you want something with good UI that's quite autonomous, then probably Convergence AI is better. Bear in mind, like, I didn't pay for this, right? This is a free tool. You can get free access to it. I think it does have limits, so it's freemium. But honestly, if you compare the output of Convergence AI versus the output of OpenManus, I think Convergence AI is 10 times better. You can also automate the task as well. So if you click on this, you can choose like your start time, kind of like ChatGPT tasks, set a schedule, and then go from there. And also you get a preview. So you can see the proxies view and exactly what it looks like, which is really cool as well. So is that better than OpenManus? I would absolutely say so. The other thing as well is on Manus, if you go back to it, you can actually, let's have a look here, what we got. So we can actually deploy websites. So if we scroll down, let's scroll down to the deployment section right here. Yeah, you can see, for example, you can deploy to a subdomain, which you can't do with the localized version of OpenManus. Now, if you want to set up OpenManus, let me show you exactly how that works step by step. Pretty simple stuff. So we can go to the GitHub, or in fact, what I'm going to do is just follow the instructions inside the AI Profit Boardroom. And essentially, we have to set up a new Conda environment. So let me do that. And plug this in like so. Then you're going to press yes. So just Y. It's going to start setting it up like you can see. It is a little bit technical. So if you've never used Terminal before, you're probably going to look at this and feel like an FBI hacker or something. Like it feels a little bit confusing when you're first checking out a terminal for someone who doesn't have a coding background. Now, once we've set it up, we can just copy these instructions like so. Then we're going to pip install that bad boy. And then from there, what you also need to do is you need to set up a config file for your API keys, right? So for example, what you're going to do is you're going to plug in the configuration. You can use Claude. I think honestly, you're going to get better results with Claude 3.5 Sonnet. You can also put in, for example, all these optional APIs right here. And then if we shut that down by pressing Control and X, then we can use the Python command right here, run that, and we should be good to go on that. All right. Let me just double check this. Yeah. Obviously, you need to put in an API key, but yeah, that's pretty much how it goes step by step. And then once you've got that running locally, you can just ask it any prompts as long as you've got your main API key plugged in there. And then also what you can do is you can open that up in Visual Studio Code, like you can see, and you can see all the outputs in green, right? So if we look at this folder right here, we have current events, the Tokyo itinerary, the SEO cost calculator, trip plan, attractions, etc. I mean, to be fair, that 7-day trip plan is not bad, but it's just not that comprehensive. And then we have the SEO cost calculator app that we built in Python. So essentially, that's how you can do it step by step. Honestly, as well, like I would say, if you're coding out a website or something like that, if you had a choice between OpenManus and other tools, I'm probably going to use something like Windsurf, right? Windsurf is super powerful for building out websites, and also it can connect to the internet. It's kind of like an autonomous coding agent. The only problem with Windsurf as well is like it does require a lot more back and forth, right? If you tell Manus to do something or you tell OpenManus to do something, it just goes off and does it. Whereas if you, for example, you ask the AI to do something, it's usually going to go back and forth a little bit right here. So I'm just going to say, right, run this terminal command. And then I can show you some outputs. But essentially, if we open up a new window here, or we can even open up like an AI automation folder. So let's open up a new window. Then we'll set up open folder, new folder. We'll call this snake test. Open that up. Then we've got some options right here. But the thing is as well, like the outputs from from Windsurf are just nowhere near as powerful from what I've seen versus using something like Manus. So if we wanted to create, let's have a look here. What we got here. All right. So if we use the same prompt inside Windsurf, we'll plug that into here. Right? And bear in mind the output of this with one single prompt. So there's no prompting from the user. There's just one single prompt up here. The output from this is something really impressive. If we ask Windsurf to do the same thing, it's going to take a lot longer. And I don't think the output is going to be that great either. But we'll wait for that to load and see what we come back with. The other thing you could do, yeah, I haven't tested it, but you could probably plug in on OpenManus. You could plug in the Claude 3.7 Sonnet API, and that would help a lot too. That's another option. What you can also do is you could use something like bold.new. That's another alternative, right? But again, these are more like coding tools. They're not really like fully autonomous agents, right? So for example, if it's a research task, like, you know, planning a trip, or for example, even like sending emails and stuff like that, I bet you could get Manus to do if you gave it the login details, or like posting tweets and that sort of thing. You can't do that inside Bolt, right? So bolt.new is great for like coding a project. And also quite often Bolt is very, very buggy. I'll show you an example I was trying to build yesterday. So I asked Bolt to create this AI SEO content creator. And I wanted to test, like, has it updated and improved since I last started using it, right? So I asked it to create an SEO content writer. And it's really good. Bolt is great for like simple stuff, but it's not great for like complex stuff, like where you have to put in your own API key. So for example, if we wait for this to load, it's going to start installing it right here. The biggest problem that I had, I mean, it doesn't even seem to be working on the, yeah, the biggest problem I had was like, it would constantly come up with these problems right here. So let's try and run this right here. You see how you can't just come back to the project? And then it just constantly has these problems. And I was just clicking through the chat for like 20 minutes last night going, solve the problem, solve the problem. So bolt.new is definitely not perfect. It can create like really basic stuff. But let's see how we got on with the interactive moon example. So it says it's creating the project, building it out. Let's see what we got on the preview. Yeah, so I mean, that's not working, is it? Let's try another one. We'll test this one. So this was creating a Julian Goldie website, which I think it did okay on, but it's nowhere near as good as Manus. So let's wait for that to load. Yeah, so here's an example, right? And that image is interesting, to say the least. It's definitely not me. It's created a really basic website, but it's not that impressive. Whereas, for example, if we go over to the AI Profit Boardroom, and then we'll find that page that we're talking about. Where is it now? Yeah, the website. This is what Manus built, right? And that is 10 times better than what we got previously from bolt.new, right? This is what bolt.new did, and this is what Manus did with the same prompting. So you get the point. Like, you know, these AI coding tools, like for example, Bolt, for example, Lovable, you know, Visual Studio Code, etc. They're powerful, but they're not as good as this, right? And Manus might be a modified version of Claude. It might be like a wrapper, but it gives you better outputs in Claude. I've done another video on like, you know, Manus versus Claude, so I'm not going to do that today, but you get the point. So that makes, you know, some of the things that we're talking about here today make sense. So thanks so much for watching. You now know which one is better. Manus is better by a long way, but the only problem is, you know, you can only do one prompt. I'm on the beta testing. I can only do one prompt per day before it runs out of credits. So if I had a choice, honestly, I'll probably go with Convergence AI out of everything. Open Manus is kind of like very, very basic. You could use a Claude API to get better outputs, but I just don't think it's anywhere near up to par when it comes to, say, comparing it versus Convergence AI or against Manus. So that's what I would say. Now, if you want to get access to all of my best automations with AI, for example, like email, social media, video automation, AI agents, web scraping, AI SEO automation, and all of my best SOPs, which get updated daily. So all the latest cutting edge techniques get put inside here. Feel free to get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom, link in the comments description. It also comes with weekly Q&A calls, so you can jump on the weekly Q&A calls, ask any questions you have. And additionally, inside the community, you can ask questions, and then, you know, you get comments and help as you go along, right? So if you ever get stuck with AI, which, you know, 99% of people do tend to get stuck with it, then you can post inside the community and ask any questions that you have. And additionally, if you miss the Q&As, then you can watch them back, right? So if you can't make one of the Q&As, just jump on the Q&A call recordings, ask anything that you want to. And if you want to get a free SEO strategy session, feel free to get that link in the comments in the description. And one-to-one on this free SEO strategy session, we'll show you how we take websites from 0 to 145,000 visitors this month and generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales on autopilot. On this free link building acceleration session, you're going to get a free SEO domination plan, custom tailored to your business to get more leads, sales, and profits. You'll discover the secrets of SEO link building, answer any questions you have one-to-one, and you'll also learn how to 10x SEO traffic based on what's working for us and our happy clients, like you can see right here. If you want to get into the school community, click on the link in the comments description to the AI Profit Boardroom, or you can just go to aiprofitboardroom.com and get access right there. Appreciate you watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.